Okay, so I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that the G is taking up approximately half the space. So this page is almost divided into two. So I think that's giving me the idea of using an even number for the number of columns instead of an odd one. So I'm going to go up to Layout, Create Guides, and you want to be sure that you always check this to remove the existing guides. We want the guides to fit to the margin. And I'm going to make this about 6 rows and 6 columns. And I can see now that this suits this layout a lot better. I might want to double it to 12 because I have some elements here that are pretty close together, but the G is now pretty much where I want it to be, but I think I could make the G a little smaller. Let me try that. So I'm going to click on the magnifying glass and zoom in here. And you can see that the G now fits in the grid. 1, 2, 3 columns. It goes from this end to this end and it fits nicely. This needs to come out a little bit, so I'm going to pull it over to here, and then I'm going to actually select all the text and make it a little larger until it fits the box. Okay, it went over, so I'm coming back. 27 is good, and the 38, let me bring that up a little bit to, yeah, 38. That's good. And so now this element is better aligned with this element. It's still not quite perfect, but I can play with that in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to hit Command 0 to back out. And I'm going to see if this grid works for the elements. The only thing I don't like about this is this particular element down here no longer is lined up according to the grid. This is what was making me think maybe instead of 6, it ought to be 12. So let's try that. I'm going to go to Layout, Create Guides, and I think my number of rows was 6. And I'm not sure that's going to work for me, but I'm going to go ahead and use it. We want to remove existing guides, and instead of 6, I want 12. And so I'll click OK. That's a little better because now I have room to adjust some of these elements and still align them with the grid. So I'm going to use the magnifying tool and zoom in here. And the first thing I want to do is take this, the text block, and move it so that it aligns with the grid like that. It comes over the margin slightly, but I can change that by moving this in and pulling this up and then coming down a little bit with it. Yeah. Okay. So if I move this up to line up with the G, the crossbar on the G, that might work a little bit better. So now I'm going to see if I can line these up. So I'm going to bring them over. Everything now is lined up almost exactly where I need it to be. So I'm going to move this over to here, move this over to here, and this over to here. And I'm going to move this one down. I keep hitting the G box. By the way, when you're working in InDesign and you have an element that's in front of another element, you can do a couple of things. One is you can go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back, and that puts the G in the background and the O in the foreground. You can also hit the Command key, which will help you select the object you want to. And you can hit the Command key until you see that you've selected that object. So I'm going to bring it down. And I want to bring the G down too. And I want to visually make these about the same space apart. And then this is going to go to here. Again, my goal is to try to make these conform to the grid, if I can. So I think they should be a little closer, but let me try this again. Okay, so now I messed up these little circles, and I'm going to have to go back and figure out where they're supposed to go. But let's take a look at this and see how it works now. So instead of lining up on the left side, the OGB actually now lines up more along the center, the counter of the O in Onyx. So you can see there's more that could be done here, and I'm sure as you're watching this, you're going, well, why doesn't she do this and why doesn't she do that? Well, I don't want to do everything because then you wouldn't have any fun fixing it yourself.